Well, Razorback fans, the Razorback basketball team lives to fight another day in what was most on-brand fashion in the SEC tournament against Vanderbilt.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of the John Nabors Show, which you can catch every weekday afternoon from 4 to 6 on Natty State Sports and nattystatesports.com. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. Hope everybody's having a tremendous and wonderful Thursday as Razorback football spring practice. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's underway here this morning. And, we're going to talk basketball. We got to lead off with that because Arkansas lived to fight another day against Vanderbilt, and it's a little Wednesday night sadness action. Okay? Wednesday night sadness. What a stupid game. Like, it was so dumb. Arkansas wins this game in overtime, folks, by a final score of 90-85. And there were so many things that happened in this game that it was just two bad basketball teams going at it, but it was pretty wild. So Arkansas gets the victory 90-85. At halftime, Arkansas was down by 14 points, folks. They were down by 14 points at halftime, 41-27. They got down as many as 15 points. 15 points with 16 minutes to go in the game. And they won in overtime. Now, you would hear that. If that was where it ended, you'd probably be like, wow, okay, that was an impressive second half. They got it going, did some really big-time things, and were able to get the lead to next to nothing and then make a play at the end to send it to overtime. And then they had the momentum, and they rode it, and they finished out in overtime, and they ended up winning the game. Yeah, that would have been a better story or at least a better game, but that's not exactly what happened. What happened was Arkansas played like over the top, really tremendous in the second half. So much so, folks, so much so that Arkansas led by 8 points in this game with 2 minutes left. Let me repeat that. They led by 8 points with 2 minutes left to go in this game. Less than 2 minutes to go in this game. They led by 8 points. They led by 4 points with 17 seconds to go. 17 seconds to go. That's when Arkansas hit a free throw. Caleb Battle made both of them, 78-74. 4 seconds later, Najon hit a layup. They just let him go by, hits his layup. Arkansas tries to pass it in. They can't. They turn it over. And then Vanderbilt hits a buzzer beater with Vanjon, who was just killing. I think he had 30 points almost, 29 points, to send it to overtime. So not only was this game ridiculous in many different fronts, but that right there kind of just sums up the whole entire situation. Arkansas was down big time by 15 points. They storm back and take an 8-point lead. That is a massive swing of points, folks. Massive swing of points. I mean, if you're looking at it in that perspective, you're down 15 with 16 minutes to go, and you get up 8 with 2 minutes to go. By that logic, you're looking at 20. You outscored Vanderbilt by 22 points in a 14-minute span. That's impressive. It's extremely impressive. So the fact this game should have never gone to overtime, but it did. But give Arkansas credit. They did find a way to win the game. That's all that matters in the end. They found a way to win the game. And there were some really good performances by the Razorbacks, at least some individual performances by some of the Razorbacks. We saw that Caleb Battle is like, he had 24 points. It really didn't feel like it. But again, when this guy gets to the free throw line as much as he does and he makes free throws, he's always going to have a big game. He led all scores, 24 points, 13 of 14 from the free throw line, 5 of 12 from the field. Also had 6 rebounds, 3 assists, Had 4 turnovers, but also 2 steals. So not too bad of a game. Not too bad of a game for him. But to me, the real story of this was Trevin Brazil. Now, say what you want about Trevin Brazil. I know he's dealt with injury. He's had inconsistency problems. It's been all over the place for him. But he played about as well as he has all season long. Maybe that Duke week. I think he won SEC Player of the Week that week. But he had 13 points on 5 of 10 from the field, 3 of 6 from three-point land. He had 12 rebounds. Also, 4 block shots, 2 steals, and 1 assist, no turnovers. That's phenomenal. In 42 minutes of play, mind you. That was the most minutes any Razorback played, was 42 minutes. Trevin Brazil, outstanding work. And don't forget Mekhi Mitchell, which, Mekhi's maybe a little bit more understanding that he's been continuing to play really well and has had more consistent games like this. But he also poured in another outstanding performance. He played 35 minutes in this game, had 18 points on 7 of 11 from the field. He had 6 rebounds. So 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 block shots, 2 steals, and only 1 turnover. So Mekhi Mitchell had also a great game. Tremont Mark had 18 points in a sneaky way. He went 6 of 12 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, had 4 rebounds, 2 assists, only 1 turnover, and 1 steal. So he had a pretty nice little game there. And even Devo Davis, I say what you want about Devo too. Maybe it's March Devo, but he fouled out of this game. Way too many fouls. He had 12 points on 4 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point land. Also had a steal and 3 assists. So that's pretty good. So the point is that you had a pretty good performance offensively from this team, but it continues to go to the offense, man, or the defense. The defense just can't stop anybody, man. They had way too many wide open threes. This team doesn't know how to pass the ball in and late in game possessions. If there's full court traps, they just crap their pants. Like it's so bad, and it's so annoying that you're in this position. But it's like you're still playing. You're still playing good. I don't even want to say good. As good a basketball as you've played all year long. Like you're not getting blown out what you once were. I know that's sad to say, but it's true. Like you're not getting your taints handed to you like you were against Auburn, South Carolina, Ole Miss, LSU earlier in the year. You're fighting. Like all the games at Arkansas, since that Tennessee butt whooping you took in Bud Walton Arena about a month or so ago, since that point, you've either won every game or you've been in every game. In some cases, you should have won. Like, you should have beaten Mississippi State. That should have been a game you won. You didn't. You should have beaten Vanderbilt at home for sure. You should have won that. You didn't. Alabama on the road. You should have won that game. You didn't. Kentucky, I'm not saying you should have, but that was the most offensive game I've ever seen in an SEC play, and you were right there in the mix and right there in it. And a lot of those games were on the road, mind you. But you didn't. So you're playing it to where you're at least competing in the SEC. You're at least competing against your opponents. You're at least giving it your all. But it's still just the dumb mistakes, man. The dumb mistakes that frustrates me to no end about this team and about what goes on and everything. So I'm just really hoping that you have South Carolina next. Maybe this can be the revenge tour of the SEC tournament for Arkansas. Maybe this can be the revenge. You already took it against Vanderbilt for embarrassing you at Bud Walton. You got South Carolina who embarrassed you at Bud Walton. Maybe you take care of business against them. And if you do, maybe you could take care of business against Auburn who embarrassed you at Bud Walton. So you got embarrassed at Bud Walton by 3 straight opponents that if you win, you're guaranteed to play. And more than likely after Auburn, you're going to play Tennessee. And guess what they did to you in Bud Walton Arena? They embarrassed you. They embarrassed you. Maybe this is the Bud Walton revenge tour. Probably not, but I'm trying to hype it up a little bit, but still. They got the win, all right? They got the win. I'm not going to hate on them. They didn't play perfectly, but they had some good performances. Vanderbilt's not good. We'll see what they do against South Carolina. Actually, I like Arkansas's chances to win. I really do. I'm sure I won't regret that at all. But we'll have to wait and see tomorrow, 2:30, or today. Today, 2:30. So when it's going to be happening. So, folks, this week's March Madness Bracket Highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that stands out and a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like all of the 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level, just like it was with Arkansas, taking it to the next level, taking it to the the next place. You know what I'm saying? Arkansas is big on that. However, Tennessee Volunteers can only be described as a pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch and have really created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC. Player of the Year candidate Dalton Connect has carried the Vols all the way this season and made them a team to watch in March. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure at NissanUSA.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, I wanted to dive into a little bit spring football for all of you. And, you know, there is a way that it goes on in the air of how crazy things have gone for Arkansas, and basketball and baseball is going to get going. But spring football still seems to carry so much. So many of you still care so much about spring football, and I love that because I do too. Like, I love the fact that we can talk spring football and it has an excitement and an energy and an interest. You know, things like that have really stepped up and got us some cool things for it. But I keep wondering what's the next step, though? Because you heard me talk about Taylon Green. You heard me talking about Bobby Petrino. You heard me talk about everything for Arkansas and what they got going on offensively and what's looked good, what's stretched. But what's the next step? Like, what do we need to see, not only in spring practice to close this week, but next week, spring break's going to be happening, so there's not going to be any practices. But then the week after, like, what can we see? And here's what I want. I'm not saying I'll get it, but here's what I want. I want to see a tremendous stride with the defensive side of the ball, but specifically the front seven. I feel good, and I feel confident about the safeties and the cornerbacks. Not saying that they're going to be world beaters, but I feel confident in them. They got depth, they got talent, they got experience, they got a lot of that. And you've heard me talk about the linebacker position and how it's depleted and it has no depth there whatsoever. So it's really hard to say, oh, well, yeah, for sure, they'll make tremendous strides there in just a couple of weeks when they don't even have the guys to do it. But on top of that, I also want to see more so from, say, the defensive line. Landon Jackson's really good. We know that. You know, Cam Ball, okay, looks pretty good. There's some other guys there that are fighting for their spots and going through the rotations and everything. But I just want to see more of what this defense is capable of going up against this offensive line. Because we found out last year, very quickly, folks, that it wasn't just that the defensive line was really, really good. Because, I mean, they weren't bad, but they weren't elite. What it was is that the offensive line was brutal. And so if I'm able to see this year and in this spring, the D-line continue to develop and the D-line continue to get after the quarterback and make some plays there, am I going to view it the same way as I did last year? Or am I going to view it as, oh, well, you know, it's pretty terrible to see the D-line being so overpowering towards the offensive line. It's just going to be another tough year for the offensive line. I don't know if I'm going to take it to that stretch. Because I also want to see the offensive line take steps forward too. It's a pendulum swinging. It's like, you know, well, if this team looks good, that means the other one sucks, or vice versa. Like, what does that all entail? I feel like if the offensive line is able to hold this defensive line and to do really well against them, that's going to be a great sign for the offense. It really is. I don't think it's going to be a bad sign for the defense as much as it is a good sign for the offense. But then on the other side, if the defensive line continues to overpower the offensive line, it's not a bad thing for the D-line at all. But it would be worrisome for the offensive line. It's about that trench play, man. It's so much about that trench play. Because both sides, as we know, they all depend on how good the front is. Arkansas's offense is there when it comes to skill position players and depth, quarterback play, offensive coordinator, play calling. But it's not going to mean anything if the offensive line can't hold it together. But even on the defense, the linebackers is a big deal. But, folks, you can overcome a lot in the defense. You can overcome a lot of blemishes defensively if you have what it takes on the defensive line to hold their own. Because if your D-line is able to get push, is able to get some edge rushing ever to get to the quarterback and at least put some pressure on him too, is it going to end up being where you give up yards? Sure. But it's also going to make you feel a lot more confident to where if you also couple that with a really good secondary, suddenly you can be a lot more creative with those linebackers. You can start figuring out other blitz packages to send them on if their strength's more of rushing the passer. Or maybe you'll be able to drop them more in coverage if they're better with that and more comfortable in that. Like, there's a lot of different directions and a lot of different areas it could go. But I still look towards it as, hey, let's just see how these trenches battle it out. I want to see somebody be good. I want to see somebody be dominant. I want to see somebody make strides. I want to see somebody on the trench play. And it could be a couple of guys. It could be the whole unit. But I just want to see somebody stand out. Because I'm telling you right now, I think Arkansas's offense and Petrino's offensive mind can be good enough to overcome a suspect offensive line. I really believe that. Maybe I'm putting too much into it, but I really believe that. I think that Petrino can figure out creative ways, knowing that he has a rough thing going on with the offensive line, to make it work. But I don't think that Arkansas defensively is talented enough and capable enough to overcome having an average to below average D-line. You don't have the linebackers for it, and the secondary can only do so much. So that's going to be key. I want to see those steps get taken. I want to see where the direction that they go, and hopefully somebody stands out and somebody gets it going in the major way, because they're going to need it. Lord knows. Lord knows they're going to need it. All right, folks, Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick, the Fire TV Stick, that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos for your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here at Locked On, and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV lets you dive into all the in-game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out the Fire TV channels and Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. We're also brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and also level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits to LED headlights and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I was thinking about this when I was watching the SEC tournament for Arkansas on Wednesday Night Sadness. You know, Texas and Oklahoma join the conference next year, and I don't know if they've officially – I tried doing some research on it. I don't think they've officially announced how the SEC tournament basketball-wise is going to be held. But since you're going to have 16 teams, I was thinking of how the baseball format is. Like, do you really want to have it to where there's 16 teams in the SEC tournament, basketball-wise? I mean, sure, it levels out to where it can be pretty even because you got 16 teams. That's a good, nice number for a bracket, as we all know, if we watch the NCAA tournament. But how would that play out? I'm actually in favor of a two-option deal where you can say, all right, we are going to have the bottom 2 teams of the conference not have a chance to play. You don't get to go. You don't deserve to go. Kind of like they do in baseball. I think I'd be all for that model. But I also wouldn't mind it if the top 2 teams of the SEC tournament were given an option to opt out. Not saying they would, but given the option. Where it's like, hey, do you want to opt out? I mean, you're going to be a number 1 seed or number 2 seed. This tournament doesn't do anything for you. It could risk injury. Gives you time to rest up and get ready. What do you think? And then if they want to opt out, they should be able to opt out because they know they're going to get in the tournament no matter what. And that opens up the conference, technically, to have a chance of adding some teams into the NCAA tournament if, say, someone got hot and ended up winning the SEC tournament that wasn't already going to be in the NCAA tournament. I don't know. Probably that idea is a little bit more far-fetched. But I still would like to see more of the teams not deserving to go end up not going. I think that would be beneficial. I think that'd be better for everybody, better for the conference, better for the competition. Because just nobody wants to see that. Some people just need their seasons to end. Like, does anybody want to see Missouri go 0-18 and play in an SEC tournament? No. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve to go. I hope that's what they at least consider. But who knows? Like, the SEC may have 20 teams here in the next 2 years. I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to look like? But it's still fun to watch. I still love March Madness, even though Arkansas has not really been a big, huge part of it, and they probably won't be. Still playing basketball. I still enjoy it, still have fun with it. So who knows? Maybe they'll keep it going. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching in to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.